So our first order of business is to approval of the minutes from the, no, we have a comment.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes.
No, no.
Okay, let me finish, okay? My motion is to approve the minutes subject to correction because there are a couple of things that were.
I think it's
in error
CSR.
there. I
No, it's in my
apologize
system. I
for
think
the
it's
lateness
CSR
of
as
the
well.
arrival of the minutes. My
CSR as
computer
well?
I think
not
so.
seem to think
Try
you
that.
can see them on time, so it ate the documents and then spit back out. So I apologize for that. We have a couple of things we already know we need to correct. If you would, everybody who has corrections would let me know and I'll fix it. And if there are other than corrections, if there are actually substantive problems, then we can bring it back for approval in February. But subject to that, I move approval of the minutes. Second.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Okay. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Ask Jerry if he's feeling okay. Because he's counting in English.
Not anymore.
6, 7. Over here again?
We did.
No, but I have to start again.
Again?
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23,
Now,
23.
now let's count.
Against? Against? No, abstaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.
I did put every to the 24.
Okay, so the vote passes 24-0-5-0.
Okay. So first, I want to welcome back Nikki. Robert SBA has asked for a leave of absence, so I would like a motion to grant. Okay. All those in favor of? All those in favor?
This is number 13.
3-month leave.
This is for Robert.
Robert.
Okay. Los dos en favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 27 against.
This is rather than waiting till the steering. Normally we would vote at
For
steering.
the abstaining. 1, 2, 2. The vote passes 27-0-2-0.
And before I continue my report, I wanted to thank Misha. I don't know where she is. There she is. For all of her hard work. She is moving to Community Board 9.
I just wanted to say a quiet word of thank you. It was a real honor to be of service to the Community Board 7 and also to the Upper West Side community. And I really am grateful for the time. I learned a lot. I made some really dear friends and colleagues, and I just wanted to say thank you and good luck in the new year.
Say thank you to Misha. She was a fabulous member of the Parks and Environment Committee for what, about 4 years, Misha, something like that. And we are very, very sorry to lose her to Board 9, but we're still good friends.
She's moving north, huh?
I want to thank, special thanks to Mark Diller for his incredible work on the district needs statement. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. It's really interesting reading. It's not dull at all. And there are new photos. And I want to thank our urban fellow, Emily, who has done a really good job
when her resignation is
collecting
effective.
data. The DNS committee has continued to work. January, we're going to start asking the committee chairs to start building relationships with outside groups. February, March, and April, we're going to ask the committees meet with those groups. March, there'll be discussion at the steering. May and June committees will look at the DNS. I wanted to thank Gabby especially because she does something that's quite interesting. She sends out an email a week or so before her meeting, reminding people that they need to come to the meeting, and then reminding the person who signed up to do the minutes that they need to be at the meeting to do the minutes. So it might be a great model for some of the other committees. I'm not telling you have to do it, but it's just a thought. It's one of our roles as a community board is to have minutes of all of our meetings. So that's why Gabby gets a shout out. Tomorrow night, I will be tweeting with the co-chairs of communication, Linda and Sue, and some other people on street clutter, otherwise known as garbage. Between 5:30 and 6:30, so you can tweet at the hashtag is going to be hashtag street clutter.
CB7 Twitter handle, but if you're not on it, just search hashtag street clutter and you'll see all of our comments and comments and coming back. Thank your anchor and all of the magazine boxes, etc. Or just that person.
And Mark Blazer will also be tweeting with us. Okay, the night shift task force had a joint meeting with Board 9 in December, and they are looking to present a minimum of 3 forms, possibly for unserviced sanitation, security, and succession rights. And our urban fellow is going to start looking at some trend analysis for the, she's using the dashboard and census data. And so we will give you an update on that as we get it. And I think that's it. We're going to start hearing from the community. But first, we have our Congressman Jerry Adler, who is
Thank you very much. It's been a very eventful while since I was last here. I'm going to speak very briefly and take questions. Let me just say, first of all, we are going back to Washington next week. We passed a continuing resolution to fund the government through January 19th. So we kicked the can down the road all of a few weeks, and we still have to pass, in effect, a budget for the year. And contingent on that, at the same time, we also have to hopefully pass a bill for the DACA, the Dreamers, the Deferred Action, for the kids who were brought here as undocumented immigrants as children and who know no other country. And they will be subject to deportation starting in March if we don't do something about that. Hopefully we will. The president has said he wants to take care of that, but the price of taking care of that is agreeing to build a wall, do a lot of other repressive things, things that are totally unacceptable to most Democrats. So we'll see where that goes, and we may condition voting for a budget to continuing resolution on solving the DACA problem. We also have the CHIP, the funding for medical care for children, which has not been renewed and will be ending very shortly. We have to deal with all these, and the biggest budget issue is that the president and the Republicans basically want a huge increase in defense spending, and the existing law says that the defense spending and the non-defense spending have to be equal. And they want a huge increase in defense spending and a very large cut in all other social service spending. And of course, we also have the tax bill that just passed, which will, aside from a lot of other problems, this really targets states which have high local state or property or income or sales or property taxes. Because it says you can't deduct them except for a total of $10,000 for all of that. And this is a tremendous pressure on states to lower their taxes, which is to say to lower their services. At the same time, there's going to be a move from the Republican leadership in the House to take a lot of, every time you hear someone say, well, let's block grant this, what they're really saying is, let's take this amount of money and give a block grant to the states and then start decreasing it, or not increasing that with inflation, so that you're in effect transferring more of a burden to the states at the same time that you're taking away their ability to tax. So this is a tremendous burden that we're going to have to deal with somehow. These are some of the questions we're going to face very shortly, as well, just on the budget level and the immigration level. Let me say also that, as you've probably read, we had a vacancy in the office of ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, which is to say, if the Democrats take control, chairman of the Judiciary. Weeks ago, I think it was a very sharply contested vote, but we did win handily, and so I look forward to doing that. And depending on what happens with the special prosecutor, various other things could be a very key position. It's always a very key position in terms of anything to do with civil liberties, First Amendment, antitrust, if we ever do that again. Hopefully we will, and a lot of other things. Antitrust to intellectual property, music licensing, a lot of different issues. So I'm looking forward to assuming this now on rather short notice, and I'll take questions. Where do you want to recognize the questions?
Thank you, and congratulations. That's great news for all of us. My question is about net neutrality and whether the change in regulations can be overcome by statute, and is there any hope for that?
Well, it certainly can be overcome by statute. Everybody knows that we had net neutrality by vote of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, a number of years ago. That was hard fought to get that. And of course, the Trump FCC on a party vote 3-2 just reversed it. Yes, we could certainly change that. It could be changed in two ways. A future FCC could change it, or we could change it by statute. And we certainly should change it. Net neutrality is absolutely essential. But if we get a Democratic majority, we can change it. The Republicans do not want to. They are very much pretty uniformly against net neutrality. There are various reasons why, but they're pretty uniformly against it. So it would take a Democratic House and probably a Democratic Senate, or a Democratic House and enough leverage on other issues in the Senate to get that done. And hopefully we'll be able to do that in the not too distant future.
Hi. My question is about the House Intelligence Committee. It seems that there are two factions, Republican and Democrat, and that they but very negatively not working together, with Devin Nunes having his own little tea party. The question I have is, if they do evidently write two different reports, do these reports have any value in terms of where the Congress moves after they get these reports, or is it just a lot of noise?
That would, I suppose, depend on the reports, on the evidence behind the reports, on the quality of the reports. If one is at a snow job, that is, one assumes the Republican report would be given the behavior of Nunes and company, and the fact that they're rushing to finish up with the opportunity to interview a lot of relevant witnesses. that would probably be disregarded, although the right-wing press will hype it, obviously. A Democratic report from the Democrats on the committee will have an impact, but it will have an impact filtered through the press and filtered through how people regard it. Remember, we've got the Senate Intel Committee, the Judiciary Committee, looking at it too, and that may be the most relevant, the fairest of them all. And then, of course, we have to wait for the special counsel. That report, and let me just say something about the special counsel. I have watched a systematic, we've all watched a systematic hatchet job being done on the special counsel with one major distortion. Various people in the special counsel's office or the FBI expressed political opinions. They didn't like Trump, they liked the Democrats, whatever. They sent emails to their girlfriends to that effect or whatever. So what? That is supposed to indicate that the investigation is biased. But the fact of the matter is, we wouldn't want an FBI or a special prosecutor that vetted who they hired by political opinions. In fact, it's illegal. They may not do that by law, it would violate the hatchet. The question isn't, does an FBI agent or prosecutor have a political opinion? He's entitled to a political opinion, we all want, or she. The question is, can you show that that political opinion has biased the investigation in some way? Can you show the investigation is biased? Now, some of the Republicans are making this whole thing saying the special prosecutor is biased, the FBI is biased, all of those. The fact of the matter is, the only thing we know about the special prosecutor, actually technically the special counsel, the only thing we know about the special prosecutor's investigation is that they've indicted 2 people and 2 people have pleaded guilty. That's all we know. There have been no leaks. So whether it's a very fair investigation or not such a fair investigation, whether it's close to finishing or not close to finishing, is all speculative. All we know is the various things that have happened in court. 2 indictments, 2 guilty pleas. Period. And that's what you should know until whatever comes out in court and until they write a report and issue it publicly, presumably at the conclusion of the thing. That's all we know at this point. So anyone who says they're biased has no evidence for that. Anybody who says they're not biased, frankly, has no evidence for that either. All we know is the court proceedings, and that is the proper way.
I was just wondering if there was anything you could advise the community board to do about the census, and I understand that we're in a lot of trouble there about the upcoming one with defunding the budget there.
We may be. It's a little early to say that. The signs are not good. And we went through the same thing 10 years ago, you may recall. Passing a resolution saying they should fund it properly, that's a struggle we're going to have over the next few years. One of the things that I'm going to be talking to the governor about is whether the state can do anything to make sure that, to augment the efforts of the federal government to make sure we get an accurate count here. One of the things that's frightening and hasn't been mentioned, I mean, it's bad enough if you're not adequately funding a census and harder to find people, which is basically low-income people, minority people are therefore not counted properly. But you got another thing. We have a large number of immigrants in this city, in the state. Some of them legal, some of them undocumented. If you create a fear in the immigrant community, which is being done systematically, then a lot of these people are going to hide. They're not going to want to be counted because they're going to think that if they get counted, they're more likely to be flagged for ICE or something. And that's also could lead to a big undercount where there are more immigrants, which is to say in a place like New York. So yeah, we have a lot to worry about. We still have a few years to try to fix this. But yes, we have a lot to worry about this. And the community board could urge the federal government to adequately fund it. It could urge the state government, and the city for that matter, to step in to the extent they can.
I too would like to say congratulations to you and
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you become the majority leader of the Judiciary Committee. That would be very nice. One of the things I hope that you could see your way to getting more proactive in is getting more people to run for the various political offices that exist. I think that there's a movement that's going around, and I think that your office and your knowledge of the process could be so valuable that I would really like to see that happen.
Well, yes. Let me say the following. One of the things that we want to do is have more people running in general. From my point of view, more Democrats running. I was a member for the last 5 or 6 years, and as ranking member, I can't do this anymore because of time conflict. I was for 5 or 6 years a member of the recruitment committee of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. The job of the recruitment committee is what it sounds like, to recruit candidates, to try to make sure that we have viable Democratic candidates, that the Republicans were the Republican candidates. That we have viable Democratic candidates in as many districts as possible, even those that aren't obviously good districts, so that if a wave comes, we can take advantage of it, and so forth. Last cycle, at this point, we had recruited in marginal districts 57 candidates. This year, in those districts, we've recruited, or maybe have been inundated by 600 candidates. So now, in some districts, that's too many. You don't want 6 candidates running for 1 seat. At this stage of the game, it's not terrible. It will go down somewhat. You don't want to waste a lot of resources on too many primary parts. Some are inevitable. But, so there are a lot of people running. And we're seeing a lot of women run. We're seeing a lot of minorities run. We're seeing a lot of veterans run. Veterans of the Army, veterans of the CIA. You name it. A lot of people who normally are not the typical profile are stepping forward to run this year, at least on the Democratic side. I'm not aware of what's going on the Republican side. So that's very, very helpful. It certainly looks, just for the number of people running, that you're going to have a much larger representation of women in the next House than you do in this House. And by the way, that's going into Congress, I assume it's going on in legislatures. I mean, we've seen that in so many by-elections, special elections. So, yeah, people have to self-select to run. It's a daunting thing. You have to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort. You have to go there. I'll do what I can to help candidates, at least giving us advice. Not much more we can do. Now, we've held some meetings, and there are various other groups that have been formed in the aftermath of the election last year, where some people were appalled by what happened, to stimulate candidates, stimulate recruitment, and so forth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Me too. Me too. You can use mine too.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And we wish you good luck in Congress. We know you're going to have a hard time there. Our next speaker is Barbara Bruman from the Ryan Center, followed by Jennifer Czar.
Hi, I'm just here to bring awareness to the Ryan Center WIC program. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with the WIC program, so just briefly, it's, and I left flyers in the back. It's a program for women, infants, and children. It's a supplemental nutrition program for low-income families. And we provide nutrition counseling. All of our nutritionists are registered dietitians. We also have lactation counselors on staff. So we help with breastfeeding support, as well as provide checks for groceries and infant formula for children under the age of 5, pregnant women, and new moms. We also refer those people to other services in the community that they may need. So I just wanted to let you all know, in case you're affiliated with any programs that have these women who might be in need, to refer to us, and I left flyers in the back for that.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Jennifer Zarr from the St. Agnes Library.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I just wanted to talk about the new community conversation initiative that's going on at the New York Public Library. So this is across all the libraries. Staff are co-facilitating dialogues with community organizations and leaders, and really just inviting anyone and everyone at the table to share and to listen. These are meant to be truly democratic spaces where we can connect and through meaningful dialogue. So at the St. Agnes branch, I'm proud to announce we're one of the few select locations that are participating in this project. We're hosting our third community conversation on January 13th, which is next Saturday at 11:30. Councilmember Rosenthal will be leading this conversation. The goal is to really connect people who want to improve their community and give them the tools, guidance, and the support that they need to do that. Some may want to get involved in the community board, for example. Some may want to learn where they can volunteer with community organizations. Some may even want to run for office. So we're really excited to be a part of this, and we're just asking that you help spread the word. So I'm going to leave some flyers on the back table. I also want to just thank Councilmember Rosenthal for being a part of this and for all of her support. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Winifred Armstrong.
It's okay. Well, I do want to wish you a happy new year individually and collectively. It's been, in a sense, an honor to be before this group many times. I'm coming early in the year to update you again on the status of the Jewish nursing home proposal to build on a 20-story hospital nursing home on 97th Street and to move from 106th Street, where they originally wanted to expand and update, which we still hope they will. Many of you who are familiar with this may have already heard that the environmental challenge that PS, the Friends of PS Public School 163, and we, the working group at Park West Village, challenged on the noise and lead dust issues of the potential proposed construction. Went to the court of, the first judge ruled in our favor that the environmental impact statement was not adequate. And this went to the Court of Appeals in Albany, and we lost that case. They ruled in favor of the Department of Health, saying that the environmental impact statement was adequate. Listening to the debate, to the discussion of the judges, as I did, and which you can too, I will leave with Jerry, with your secretary, the references to where the presentation can be heard on the computer. In any case, the issue, as I said, that was the environmental case. That does not give JHL the right yet to build. There is a second legal case, as many of you know, around zoning issues, which that's Hayden versus the Board of Standard of Appeals. And that was heard in November by the appellate division, first department. And that decision has not yet been reached. That zoning decision has implication, as did the environmental one, for many other decisions in the city. I also just want to mention, kind of more for fun, as many of you know, I'm an environmental economist, so I've been tracking some of these issues for years. And you may have missed, since it was Christmas time, December 27th, when it was announced that the federal court orders EPA to move forward quickly on new rules for dust hazard standards and definition of lead-based paint. And while that they are requiring that a ruling be made because it's been delayed for over 6 years, just around the issues that we raised for this construction. And while that decision wouldn't, I don't think, I'm not a lawyer, I don't think would affect actually the decision of the Court of Appeals. It certainly raises the issue and allows us to raise the issue again of the dangers of that. So life goes on, and we'll be back. And thank you for all your help.
Our next speaker is Peter Ernst.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you all. I am here with a flyer that's in the back for an upcoming history talk on the blocks around Riverside and 105th Street. It's by an author of a book called The Man with the Sawed-Off Leg and Other Tales of a New York City Block. It'll be coming up on January 17th, that's a Wednesday, at the Youth Hostel. This is one of a series of walks and talks in our neighborhood. We have a walk coming up on the somewhere in January 28th at 1 p.m. leaving from the Youth Hostel. It's with Jim Mackin. There will be another one in February on the 25th. And there will be another talk on February 27th, which is a Tuesday evening, by a professor on white women and black children, the history of the New York's colored orphan asylum. And I guess I'll quickly mention that there is an annual MLK March leaving on January 15th from Holy Name Church on 9th.
Next is the Borough President's Report, Diana Hammer. Okay, we'll wait. Borough President. The next is Jennifer Greer from New York Public Advocate Tish James.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jennifer Greer. I'm here on behalf of Public Advocate Tish James. The Public Advocate was sworn into her second term yesterday, so we're really excited about that. We're happy to report that over the last 4 years, we've closed over 20,000 constituent cases, and we're hoping to do another 20,000 in the upcoming 4 years. Just want to take a second to note that we have received a lot of calls about heating issues. So if you or somebody you know is dealing with a heating problem, please have them call us. They can call me directly at 212-669-2179 here. The whole complex? Okay, I can talk to you right now about that. My number is 212-669-2179. Thank you. I'll be in the office all day tomorrow, so call me anytime.
Our next speaker is Marissa Mack from Councilmember Helen Roosevelt's office. Next is Michael Simpson from Keller Stringer's office.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Sorry I have my jacket on. We didn't have heat all day today, so I guess I could call the Public Advocate's office for that too. Just wanted to tell you about two things the controller said recently. He, along with New York City pension funds, announced a major investment of $450 million to purchase and support non-predatory mortgages for everyday New Yorkers and support affordable housing across the 5 boroughs. The investment of $450 million in pension funds will support and create tens of thousands of units, affordable homes and units citywide. It will also include first of its kind infusion of millions of dollars specifically to support veterans in New York City. Second, another report we did was called Making Rent Count. It's a new report that exposes the deep disparities throughout the 5 boroughs. In New York City, communities where the average credit score is low, which is classified below 630, 78% of those residents are renters, and Black and Hispanic New Yorkers account for more than 90% of the population. And NYCHA residents comprise 1 in 10 residents. So the controller is proposing a common sense solution that to to fix these disparities. He wants New Yorkers to have the opportunity to have their credit scores count, to have their rent count towards their credit score. So we're working with tenant associations, NYCHA, to get a pilot program, Banana Kelly. So we're working on this. It would be an opt-in program. So if your tenant, you think it could hurt your credit score, we don't want that. So it would be an opt-in program, something we're working. Hopefully we can get that done. And if there's supposed to be a lot of snow coming up Thursday and this weekend, if for whatever reason your street is not being plowed at all, feel free to give me a call. I'm going to send out an email probably to every single one of you within the next couple of days, just in case. But feel free to give me a call. I know you're a council member, you're a assembly member, you get those calls too, but you can ask us. I'm happy to help push as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. Next is Alec Militek from Assemblymember Murphy's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm going to keep it really short. As you may know, the legislative session is upon us. So there are a couple of health legislation that is going for the committee this year. Last year, the health committee was able to reform 178 bills. So we're pretty much this year. As always, I will update you periodically as some of those are reported.
Next is Daisy Moore from New York State Senator Serrano's office.
Hello, my name is Daisy. I'm a representative from Senator Serrano's office. So our January committee report was not ready quite yet. It's going to be emailed to you guys by hopefully the end of this week. So if you want to be added to our email list, just let me know. You can email me. My email is more, M-O-R-E, @nysenate.gov. I did bring a useful resource with me. We're running kind of low in the office, so for next meeting, I'll try and bring more. But there is a state Senate bill status hotline number, and so since legislation is coming up, and I believe it's starting tomorrow, if you want to know where the status of a bill is in the Senate, you can call the hotline number. It is 1-800-342-9860. Thank you.
Next is Brendan Ward from State Senator from Minnesota, Alcantara.
Good evening, everybody, and a happy New Year to you. Everyone's staying warm as much as they can. So I'm going to be very brief as well. The session does start tomorrow. There is one bill that was signed by the governor in the past week or so. This was the minority and women-owned businesses and enterprises. So the amount of money that they can get has gone up from about 20 to 30,000 up above 100,000. So that's a big improvement. We're glad the governor signed it. Two things the senator is going to fight for in the coming legislative session is continuing funding services for immigrant legal services. We got that last year. We need to keep it going. As well as voting reform. Okay, and maybe a few more things. Voting reforms is very important for early voting, absentee voting, and automatic registration. These all have to happen. New York is abysmal when it comes to voting access, and that just isn't okay. There's also the SWEAT bill to stop theft of workers, having their wages taken from employers, again, just unacceptable, and we have to strengthen protection for workers. And then finally, Senator Alcantara has a proposal to eliminate the city income tax for people making under $50,000 a year. This is partially in response to the abysmal federal tax plan, which is burdening New Yorkers more. So we'll hopefully have some more updates on these in the coming months.
Thank you so much. Next up is Tara Klein from Senator Morello's office.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I've got two events for you upcoming that Senator Boylan will be posting. The first we're calling a Town Hall of the Resistance, How States Can Trump Washington. We've got some national experts coming up from DC. That's going to be on February 1st from 6:30 to 8:30 at the CUNY Graduate Center. So that should be great. The second, we're doing a free vision screening event with SUNY Optometry and Penn South. It's going to be down at Penn South Monday, January 29th, 9 to 11:30 a.m. Come get your eyes checked out for free. Very exciting. And then finally, just one issue we're working on for the new session, I thought you'd be interested, it came up earlier, is net neutrality. We're actually looking at ways that New York State can take action against the federal rollbacks. So we're actually working with a state senator out of California, named Scott Wiener, who we've worked with in the past on this sort of bi-coastal effort to work on some better regulations for net neutrality. So look out for that. Got a lot of other great legislation coming up. So yeah, and then finally, I just want to let you know, I'm going to personally be going back and forth up to Albany for the session, so you might not see me as much in person, but I'll still be around.
Thank you. And now our fabulous borough president, Gail Brewer, has arrived.
Thank you very much, Ward 7. A few things that we're working on. We are very focused on Rikers Island. I know it's not definitely this community, but we all take responsibility. So we're going to work on a task force of all the community boards, stakeholders. I think the biggest issue for Manhattan, and I'd love you to have some discussion of it, is what to do with the Tombs. The Tombs is right next to the courthouse. And it could be renovated, it could be torn down. Judge Whitman suggests either. And then it could be made partly community center as well as the jail that it needs to be. People talk about Rikers Island, guess what? It's a real estate issue, just like everything else. And so that's what we have to focus on. So I'd love your input on that. And we're going to move on that quite quickly, working with the city and all the other stakeholders. Second, we continue on the technology front, working with you on the board stat and all the issues to hopefully bring more data to the community board. And we continue working with the small businesses. I don't need to address it more to say that it's an endless issue. The focus we're going to have immediately is to try to pass the grocery store bill, which says that they do not have to pay the commercial rent tax. None at all. Now, hasn't happened yet, and we've been very supportive. And then we're going to continue to work with the schools on all aspects. You know that the applications for 2018 are available online. I'm sure you've heard that many times. There's some on the back. Diana has all that information. Number 3 is just in terms of also community board, we want to keep recruiting young people. I know that Serena is off at college, but we want to continue, so we're doing at 1 Center Street, our downtown office, a recruitment for young people on January 19th. And at the Uptown Harlem Pal on 119th Street, we're doing one on the 26th of the month of January. I want to congratulate you on all your work on 108th Street. We will follow all the recommendations that you made about the changes that need to be made and possibilities for the future. But I want to congratulate you with a lot of work, and many people put in many hours. The PS 163, I know the appeal was denied, so we're doing with that. A lot of work from this board, a lot of work from the parents, sort of one of those ongoing discussions. We have capital money available. The applications are due February 20th. We also have cultural grants applications due January 19th. Cultural money comes from NYC and Company. Every borough president gets money to allocate. I'm very proud that the other borough presidents were made to allocate it like we do, because they weren't doing it right. So I'm very happy about that. Don't tell my fellow borough presidents. We also, last year, as you know, allocated a lot of funding. It's all on our website. Many schools in the district, but the list goes on. I'm really sad about the Broadway restaurant fire today. I've been in that restaurant for a very long time. You might know that they had a big fire. I think it's the longest living, breathing Greek coffee shop, maybe anywhere, but certainly on the west side. And I'm really sad about the fire. Let's hope that it gets restored. Anything we can do to be helpful, we will. I just want to mention a couple other events that we're doing. One that I'm really happy, not all in this district, but we are big believers of the Solid Waste Advisory Board. We have a very active board. And on January 11th, at the Uptown JCC in Harlem, at 6:30, we're having what we call Trash Talk. There are flyers in the back, and it's all about how we can have zero waste to landfill. But mostly it's a recruitment of the Solid Waste Advisory Board. And that's something that we feel very strongly about. We'd like to see it grow. And then we will be sending out to everybody, but we have focused on ways in which the seniors can get screened and green. We've been talking about this for a year, but no matter what we do, whether it's SHE or the DHE, which is disabled homeowner, or the screen, we still have thousands of seniors and disabled who have not applied. So we continue to push on all those fronts. And then just finally, I want to say that we are going to be continuing on all the land use issues, if that's one issue that we focus on, is land use. For the artists in the room, we have a big art gallery at 1 Center Street, and we are looking for curators and people who want to participate in ideas for shows. We've had lots of West Siders there in the past, and we hope for many more. Thank you very much, Board 7, for all your hard work.
Will the commercial rent tax bill that you were sponsoring need to be reintroduced to the new council?
Yeah, but they do it, it's pretty much automatic. So, and I don't know if Corey Johnson, who will be speaker tomorrow, will want to participate and be the main co-prime sponsor, but I know he is supportive, so I hope that it'll move. The other thing that we've introduced, which again, I hope will move, is charter. We are with Tish James, we introduced in the last council meeting a bill that says the city of New York should have a real charter convention, not one like the state was gonna have, but one like took place in 1989, for those of us who were around, Andrew and Shelley and some others. And so we have many, many ideas for charter revision. It would be a very inclusive process with community boards coming up with ideas from the smallest to the largest. But we really look forward to having a new charter. Jim Karras in our office probably knows more about the New York City Charter than anybody living in New York City. And so we're looking forward to that discussion. So look to those ideas that you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow we are chatting about street clutter, otherwise known as street garbage, you know, like the newsstands that don't have news in them, and any other junk that's on the sidewalk. We will next hear from Aldo Ponderosa from Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal's office.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm sure you all know my predecessor, Gus Gibson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal's. Looking forward to working with you all and getting to know you over this coming few years. Just a few updates for you quickly. First and foremost, our winter newsletter is now available in the back of the room. Second, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the closing of the Lincoln Plaza Theatres has upset many constituents. The Assembly member is in touch with Milstein Properties, and we have spoken with a representative there regarding the closure and expressing our disappointment at the loss of this beloved historic neighborhood institution. Unfortunately, they are committed to closing it in late January, but we're keeping in touch with them and seeing if there's anything we can do to better. Secondly, the Assembly member has been in touch with NYCHA, both through letters and conference calls, regarding the fraudulent certification of thousands of lead inspections. And she's been asking questions regarding public housing in the district, the Amsterdam houses in the additions, and the Harborview Terrace. And we still are waiting for responses on those, so I will update you when we get those. And then finally, the Assembly members, as you will know, is heading off to Albany tomorrow, and she's excited to take on some big issues again this legislative season. And I'll be in the back of the room if anybody has any questions.
We had heard that they were going to close the theater and renovate it and reopen it at a future date.
That's correct. That's what we heard as well. The promise we got was they were committed to trying to keep it.
Yeah. Our last. Oh, this is your second meeting, correct? Your first.
Third.
But you were introduced last month.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Our next speaker is Gabrielle Down LL from Mayor's office.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. I just have a couple of announcements to provide. Right before Christmas, the Friday before, the mayor signed the commercial rent tax reform legislation into law right here at Santa Fe Restaurant on West 71st Street. This is Councilmember Garodnick's bill that would raise the threshold at which the commercial rent tax can be charged. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but businesses below 96th Street that pay up to $250,000 in rent are being charged an additional tax, and this legislation will raise that threshold to $500,000. And we anticipate that this will help save about 2,700 businesses. And we signed the bill into law at Santa Fe Restaurant because it will be a recipient of the reform in this legislation or eligible for the tax relief. And we were very happy to be joined also by Councilmember Rosenthal, and whose bill to study the impact of this tax reform was also signed into law. And we were also joined by the chair, Andrew Ricci. How can I forget? Two very quick announcements. Today, the mayor announced our expansion of our street outreach efforts from NYPD and the Department of Homeless Services. In Midtown, we will be expanding our joint canvassing operations from 2 days a week to 7 days a week. And additionally, we're opening 250 more safe haven beds in neighborhoods where our street outreach teams are engaged the most. These facilities are low barrier entry into housing and more immediate services for overnight beds for people who are on the street. So we hope to see a good impact in lowering the amount of people who are chronically street homeless.
Thank you so much. We are now going to go into our business session and land use.
Tonight we have two relatively straightforward elements to present. I want to call your attention first to the resolutions. Item number 1, the law offices of Mark B. Mitzer should be Mitzner. It is correct on our meeting minutes, but not on the resolution. So it's very important that we get the applicant correct. So if you could make that adjustment, and I will give it to our secretary to record correctly. So that's the first element of the first action, which is a yoga studio, Power Yoga, in a building on 2030 on Broadway on West 70th Street. I have excused myself from this project for cost because I have knowledge of the building, having been working for the owner years ago and know of this project. So I'm going to turn this over to Richard.
This is another one of these physical culture establishments that, for historical reasons, we have to approve. As I understand it, the yoga studio has been in operation, but has not required a permit because they don't have showers down. They're installing showers, so they come to us. It's on the second floor. It's not one of these high impact things where you slam weights down on the ground. It's yoga. And I think they specialize in hot yoga. So, any questions? All those in favor?
Anybody against? Anybody abstaining?
One.
One.
So the vote passes 35, one for cross, okay, so the vote passes 35, 0, 1, 1.
The next one is actually very interesting. It's 600 Columbus Avenue. You may know it as a former home of McDonald's. It has curved greenhouses and banks. I'm sorry. Let me restart. I've had too much cold medication for the last 5 days. Let's start again. 600 Columbus Avenue, and also known as the Townhouse Project, which is quite unusual because it has townhouses on the side street and the tower is on the street frontage. And unusually, most of the retail and commercial space is single story, except the 2 areas that have been cut out for previous uses that were planned to be banks or other uses. Right now, there's a shift from the need for commercial space to more nonprofit space. And so this application is to reallocate that ratio and actually fill in the floors. I know the applicant here might make that mess of this, but we're good, right? All right. So anyway, it was very well presented, very clear. The diagrams were very obvious in that they're not creating new space except filling in the existing floor area that previously existed. The idea is to enhance programs like now, I think it's the hospital now Sinai. Is it up there? Sorry, Columbus Gym and other. See, I live 2 blocks away and you think I know this, right? But anyway, our legal team is here to keep us honest. So this one was fairly straightforward. Is there any? I do have Richard. Do you want to make a statement to correct anything else on it?
Well, you address the height of the building in the material we got from the city instead of the 27-story building. But if it is, if each story is only about 4 feet high.
Correct. So thank you, Richard Lobel. I'm sorry. Oh, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel, PC. And I'm joined by Mr. Jerome Kretschmer from Columbus Townhouse Associates, as well as Sandy Hornick, who is a land use consultant to our office. The facts as were presented are essentially correct. The correction in the record was that the City Planning Commission notice incorrectly stated that this was a 27-story building. It is not. It is a 14-story building. And that error was sadly continued through City Planning's notices. But the application is, as was stated, there's approximately 1,300 square feet of floor area that is right now open space between the first and second stories, which would be filled in, would be allowed to be used for community facility use, such as the Columbus Gym, the pre-K program that's run in the building. We had a very lovely conversation with the land use committee, and there, of course, are no changes to the outside of the building. It's all internal, so that's basically it.
So we're going to amend the last line of the resolution to 14 story rather than 27 story. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
All those in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Anybody abstaining? Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? So the vote passes 37-0-0.
Thank you to the board for your time.
Thank you so much. We'll now move along to transportation.
I'm going to do the first 2 and Howard will do the last. Happy New Year, everyone. We have 3 resolutions. I will take the first 2. The first one is a re-upping, if you will, another year's approval for the green market that is on Fridays on 97th Street between Columbus and Amsterdam Avenue. Any questions? Question is called.
Okay. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, anybody abstaining? Anybody abstaining for sure? So the vote passes 36-0-0.
Great, thank you. Resolution 4 is an approval to DOT for irrevocable consent to construct and maintain an exterior wheelchair lift at 72 West 69th Street. We saw detailed graphics of this, what it will look like. It's virtually silent. It is a must. It is a must approve. It's very good for the new tenants that are going to be on the one floor up from the ground floor in this building, and we all get it.
Surprises me because we typically get wheelchair lift applications for preservation committee, and that clearly is part of the district. Is it something that's part of the railings,
Because it was a DOT approval, that's why it came to RDA. On the street.
Didn't they say that you already had approved it?
Is this not the one? Sorry, never mind. Then it was reasonably covered.
They needed DOT. The DOT needs, it needed two different agencies.
Two agencies.
So yours was preservation and then they needed.
Which is horribly unfair to the applicant to have to come back to us twice for a relatively minor
It could have
thing.
been done together, but
Yeah.
the agencies don't get together that seamlessly, obviously. Any other questions? Okay. Jerry?
Okay, call question. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 36. Anybody against? Anybody abstain? So the vote passes 36-000.
And the final resolution from the Transportation Committee, a moment of background on it. From the Manhattan School for Children came to us to request a play street. Mercifully, they've withdrawn the very controversial request. However, in considering the request, it turned out we learned that literally half of the playground, not the street, the designated playground for the students has been taken over by parking. So we unanimously approved the resolution calling on the DOE to return that playground, that space to playground use. Any questions?
Good.
That's the question. This is the first step in the process. Yes.
Apparently, this parking is not just for that school, it's for all of teachers in District 3 who could use this.
And basically, to make clear, what seems to have happened was they came to us because it was such an important issue that the kids have outdoor space to play that they wanted to close the street. And we were supportive, we were hearing it out. In hearing it out, we hear that there's a full playground that's been converted into a teacher and administrator parking lot. And so we separately passed a resolution by the committee to call on DOE to look into this and to return this playground to the students and not use it as a parking lot. And then the next day we heard that because they opened up this can of worms, they withdrew their application to close the street, hoping that this issue would go away. But we already have this live resolution saying, you know, there's a playground here. There's enough of an issue that the kids aren't getting to go outside because the other playgrounds are closed for construction. There's a valid playground that should be used as a playground. And so that resolution we feel is still very important and still should pass so that the students get to go outside and play rather than their playground being used as a parking lot.
I have a question.
Yes.
I just literally looked in the last 5 minutes on Google Maps, and it seems that half of the playground has been taken over by cars. It goes from literally from 93rd to 94th Street, so that implies no more cars.
It's half of a half, first of all, because there are two playgrounds, one on either side. The building is in the shape of a T, with the long part of the T coming into 92nd Street. And so there's playgrounds on the east side of the T that are still playgrounds. And then on the west side of the T, you're correct that there is a bifurcation of that space, which has been
accessible part of the playground, and that is now the staging area for construction in the building. And then fenced off from that is the parking for teachers and actually for the district office for community school district 3. And it's that part that you're referring to. So it's only about a dozen or 15 spots in there.
It looks like more than that. In any event, the rest of the resolution was that this was designed as a playground for children, and it's now being used for parking for administrators and teachers, and ideally it should be returned to the children.
I have a question, Roberta.
Call the question.
I have a question.
Question here.
I have a question. I support this resolution, but I just have a couple questions. What is the expectation for what happens with the resolution? So who is it being directed to? Who's going to read it? And has there been any communication with people using the spaces, with the teachers, the people in the school district offices?
There was the communication with the representatives who attended the meeting. It was clear that we proposed this as an alternative. They did not unilaterally have the ability to change the situation. So to answer your first question, the resolution is directed to the Department of Education to do what they can. There may be some regulation that prevents it, but basically the resolution calls on them to do whatever they can to return this land to the children.
We'll send it with a letter.
Yep.
If I may, I support the resolution as well and urge you to as well. The people who came before the Transportation Committee, however, were the PTA of one of the constituent schools in the building. So they were parent volunteers coming forward, which is why they were unaware of some of the concerns that the committee rightly is now raising. So it's appropriate that we take this action to direct it to people who actually can do something about it. Because parent volunteers are obviously without power and
You know that the Manhattan School for Children has a large population of physically disabled students, well integrated, beautifully integrated, into that school and into the building. And without having the access to the playground area, right by the school, part of the school, they're being deprived of physical education.
Right, and Shelley, to add to that, it's better for them to be in a playground than on the street.
Okay.
Sure. Application was withdrawn.
Oh, they wanted to, it came to us first because they wanted to turn 93rd Street into a play street. Because the students didn't have, they wanted to close the street. And we looked at it, we said half or a portion of the playground was taken over by cars. That's the first place.
Is it clear that I supported the resolution?
Okay, call the question. All those in favor?
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 27, anybody against?
It seemed like we were gonna
Gabby, anybody
approve
against?
the play street
Anybody
because they
abstain?
painted such a bad
Okay, the
picture
vote passes
about how these
37
kids
to
are
0.
coming to school all day. And in the community that was
Any
supposed to.
questions? Next up is Mark. Sure, so we have a new co-chair, and
us,
most of
they're
you know,
just-
but maybe some of you don't, Ken Conlon.
What
And we
person
have a
is this?
second Joan of Arc.
This is a lot.
For some reason.
That's crazy.
Ours is a monument
And then
a,
I'd love to know what happened
the
the
park
next day.
area
They got
in
them to
the-
withdraw the application.
and
Someone
that's
must
going
have
to
wanted
present
it
our
there.
first item,
Had
which
to
is
lose
the
the
Joan of
parking.
Arc,
Killed it off.
monument landscape, and I'll present the others.
Okay, as far as we know, Joan of Arc never actually lived on the Northwest Side.
I don't know what the right word is, like ironic that like teachers are taking away from like it's the
So we have
teachers
some
that are.
slides. The Joan of Arc monument is on a sliver of land between Riverside Drive and Riverside Drive access road between 91st and 95th Street. It has a devoted group of volunteers who tend to it, but it is in terrible disrepair, particularly the stairs, which is the second, as you can see, the stairs there. And there are also what are known as desire lines, which is paths that people have carved out for themselves to get around, which the Parks Department proposes to formalize, some of them with actual asphalt. So the project, which the Parks Department is going to do, costs $475,000. It's funded by Councilmember Rosenthal, and the money is going to be to repair the stairs, to put in these asphalt pathways, some of which are created by people accessing their cars on Riverside Drive. Also, there will be an ADA access ramp at 92nd Street. And there'll also be 4 park benches so people can sit surrounding the statue. And the statue, by the way, was installed in 1915 and it was renovated a number of years ago, but there's been no renovation of the area around the monument for the last 3 decades. What else was there? Also, the fencing is going to be restored. And so the resolution was unanimous, but we did encourage the Parks Department to sit down with DOT and figure out a way to make it safer for people exiting 92nd Street, because right now you just step off the curb and you're in the road, and there's no stop sign there, and you could be stepping off in front of a car coming by. So the Parks Department reps have assured us that they would be talking to DOT about making that safe. So, any
What
questions?
happened to our resolution on Riverside Drive?
Who's paying for it? I think 375,000 is out of discretionary funds, and 100,000
was the resolution? Sure it was. I
All
proposed the
right.
resolution. I proposed it and
Call the question.
someone seconded it.
Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Said we'd call in DOT and immediately put up a stop sign.
Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? The vote passes 36,000. 36,000.
Okay, Jared, when you're ready, we're on to the 76th Street area. Let's have those slides. Okay, so as most of you probably know, all of you know, the capital projects for the Parks Department are funded and originated and funded in various ways. Many of them are our own budget priorities and are eventually funded, and almost always with discretionary funding from our electeds. Some projects, however, arise purely out of the councilperson's participatory budgeting process. This is an example of that. This is one that was chosen by the election of community members off of the short list from Councilmember Rosenthal. So in 76th Street at the upper level, that is not down at the river, but the upper level near Riverside Drive, is a playground called the New Bell Playground, and that's fine, and it was renovated a few years ago. Just south of that is a paved, kind of, it's not desolate because it's heavily used, but this, okay. So what it has is several basketball backboards, and they are heavily used for largely games of adults and teens. There's not a whole lot else there. This is the site. And so you see Riverside Drive right, and that's the site. So we had it's I think, since the resolution, I think it's $250,000, which doesn't go very far.
No, we passed a resolution.
Our capital projects, but it's probably enough to do a whole lot of good things here. So we had a site visit.
And we emailed afterwards talking about.
Local residents there, we got some suggestions. And what this is going to do, the essence of the budgeting project is to add some fitness equipment that can be
usable by adults and older teens, in a area of the northwest area of this large paved space, you see up there on the top left, that is otherwise not really used. Additionally, the backstops are going to be replaced with polycarbonate backstops. There is going to be a bottle filler rather. We asked the Parks Department to do a combination bottle filler and water fountain in that spot, and they researched that. They told us since our maybe they can't do that, so it's going to be a combination. They're going to add a couple of bike racks just at the site, and whatever else we said in the resolution. I think there's going to be some improvements in the lighting with what's called Riverside Park theirs, which they always do. That's the distinctive Riverside Park lighting fixture, which is always done when they do a project in Riverside Park. So we've got the backstops, the equipment, the light racks, the water fountain, bottle filler there. And they're adding some benches. And so that's it. And there's Riverside Park, Riverside light pole over there. So it's got all these elements, and it should be actually make this space much more, serve a much broader audience. Richard?
Are there any access to
No, there is a gate on the north between this space and Newfield. That's not blocked. The access, and then I think that when the highway's on the west, so I'm not even sure that's the access is one or two gates that are always open. I don't think it's ever locked actually. On the east facing the sidewalk of Riverside Drive. And that's where the new bike racks are going to go. So if you're taking a walk on the upper level of Riverside Drive, you go by past this area on the east.
My only point is basketball
Uh-huh.
He said he thinks without the actual.
I think what they'll do, Richard, is they'll give them a skirt.
Because we don't
I
have
think
a
I
full
forgot
board
to
then.
say, they're adding a junior.
They're not gonna do anything. But she said it would just be the being on the record. They're not gonna do it. They're gonna have to ask. They're gonna have to get counsel.
I think based
Well,
having been to this site, and
because we don't have the
there's
language.
plenty of space to walk in or east and walk forward and over.
I mean, it's like it's immediate danger. Imminent danger.
Yeah.
Change the resolution.
Does that answer the question?
What's the resolution? I'll read it. It's,
I've never seen anybody get bombed on the head there. I don't think it's likely.
yeah. But we have to. We passed the resolution. It's fun.
Yeah. It's half court. It's half court. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You know, is there a slide that shows that, Jerry? We didn't really talk about much about the equipment, and here's some examples of it. It's you know, the kinds of things you use to lift yourself out, and there's a chit up or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question about the equipment as well.
Yeah.
And because we're public land, it's a good partnerships with the cities around the U.S. actually on these new fit zones. And what's unique about the fit zones is their equipment that any adult can use. This seems to be more the traditional fit areas where it's more like muscle builders who use this equipment. And if there's still time, I would ask, can we replace this and use these fit zones that anybody can use? The Park Department just built one in Astoria Park there.
Then I think we can go back and ask. I mean, I would urge you to vote for the resolution tonight, but I think we can go back and ask for a little more detail. You see that bottom left shows there's a safety service. I mean, that's not the question, but the safety service. It's fairly generic, I think, type of equipment that has a broad but we can ask.
it's some northbound service or wherever the exact location.
there's gonna be one added that's the lower one for, well, remember that this was a, you have to remember this was a participatory budget initiative where the aim was the fitness equipment, and there's a lot of other sort of amenities that are coming with it, the water fountain, et cetera, that's now going to be combined, not just a bottle filler. So it's limited money. Yeah. But let's all go there. Yeah. All right, are there any other questions? So we will follow up with Antoinette's question about the nature with our
Northbound, should we say that?
We would urge you to we approve this unanimously, and our non-committee board members. Any more questions? Okay. Well, I don't think it's a friendly amendment at this point where we have seen a specific proposal that I don't think it's a friendly amendment to ask for something different in the equipment. We will, we're certainly going to inquire, and I can talk to you, Jeanette, or however you'd like us to let you know what we find out.
I would like to, I really would like to hear how
I think it sounds trivial, but it actually would make a huge difference. It sounds trivial to exchange the equipment, but it would actually make a huge difference, because the thing about the FitZone is it's designed so the most unfit people are invited to use it. Whereas if it's just things where you have to pull your body up and such, as Shelley was saying, you can, you already have to be fit in a certain way to be able to use this equipment.
Yeah, it sounds great. I don't think we have any knowledge about the cost of equipment is different from
Wait, we're gonna have a resolution, or have a resolution. Wait.
If you type in your computer, touch the public land FitZone, you'll see the equipment. So I propose a friendly resolution.
An amendment.
A friendly amendment.
No, it's not friendly.
Propose an
amendment.
I propose an
She's proposing an amendment to, what's it called? For a FitZone. Is there a second? Okay.
Package that originated in participatory budgeting that was chosen in that manner by a substantial number of votes. That is for a very specific area of Riverside Park with a limited budget, where we have been presented with a package of amenities, including this fitness equipment, that is recommended and chosen by the Parks Department. We, while totally sympathetic to the notion that Jeanette has mentioned, we don't typically micromanage design decisions of the Parks Department. We have no idea whether the space or price of the space available or the price would work with equipment that is been mentioned here for the first time. So I would urge you to vote against the amendment and let the Parks Department go ahead. But as I said, we will certainly raise the question with the Parks Department. We always try to make things better. We often do.
I'd also urge voting against it. Whatever goes in there is going to exclude somebody. It may exclude the quote-unquote fit people who want to do chin-ups. And I think part of the reason Parks Department chose this is that it's an area that draws basketball players, and that's mostly what happens there. And this is something that I think would would be a compliment to them. They would not put unsafe equipment in.
I just want to agree with Clara and Ken. We can't reconfigure the park tonight. So the question is, should the good be the enemy of the perfect? And I think we have a proposal here, and we don't know what the alternatives are. So I would also urge people.
I would urge people to vote for the amendment. There is no harm in asking for better equipment. There's no assumption that it will cost more. Equipment is pretty much the same in terms of what cost, and there's no problem with just asking for what it is that you want.
Or, but I think would be time, and I don't, which is to request.
Yes,
to look at.
that was the request.
On the request that they look at the possibility.
Yes. Well, that's what they wanted in the resolution. That's what they wanted as a friendly resolution amendment, that they look at the possibility of putting it. So are you accepting that as a friendly resolution? No, she was just asking. Okay, so the resolution now has been changed, so there's no amendment to the resolution on the floor. They've accepted this friendly, that they're gonna try and ask that they look at the fit zone, and if it's possible, they'll do the fit zone. All right, we're gonna take one more comment, and then we're gonna vote.
Friendly amendment, the equipment looks very similar. The difference with the fit zone is it has extra loops and elbow rests. So people with no upper arm strength can support themselves. So it's not swapping out. There's still handlebars. You can do chin-ups, you can do pull-ups. They just have assisted built-in pieces. So I'm all for it. The only thing is, I noticed that Helen arrived. The question is, do we know that? Ask her.
Helen, the question is, we're just gonna finish voting on this and then we're gonna call on you. But the question is, on this playground, we're gonna change, the Parks Department made a presentation, and Jeanette suggested that the fit zone is better equipment, that if we can have it, we would like to have it. Are you okay with that?
As we all know, Maria, I mean, I think the issue is cost. So
Right.
this was a particular budget project. We voted on at a certain dollar amount. It was voted specifically as a team recreation facility. And so I think it was designed with that in mind. We'd have to, at this point, go back to the park department, see if this equipment would fit within that budget. I mean, I just simply don't know.
Okay.
Parks is familiar with it, so they'll be able to tell.
Right, they'll know. All right, I think that's good. You want to call the question?
Call it what we can phrase it in a way that's gonna work.
Making sure it works in the budget, et cetera. Right, because the money's there, we're ready to go. Okay, call the question. All those in favor, please.
1, 2, 3, Paul. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Sorry, my needle is today.
Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? So the vote passes 36-0-0-0.
Okay, we're going to call on Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, and then we're going back to the Transportation Committee because it seems somehow there was another resolution that didn't make it to our voting sheets.
Thank you, Roberta. And it's great to see everyone. Happy New Year. Everyone had a good time. We're all excited about 2018. And you know what we all hope for in 2013? That elected officials make really short presentations. So I'm going to start that off for you. And truly ask any questions you want, but I'm going to give you just a skeletal outline of what's going on. Most important, well, very importantly, it's very upsetting to all of us about the Lincoln Square Cinema
closing down. We all go there all the time. So all the elected officials have written a letter. So it's Dick Godfrey, Brad Hoyleman, and me and Gail. You can get it in the back over there to get them to meet with us and to address the issue. We think that there may be, there may be some room to move in, and we want to leverage every opportunity. So that's front and center. I saw Dick Godfrey yesterday. He's very enthusiastic. And, you know, obviously something very important to all of us. Our housing clinics are continuing for those of you who are in rent-regulated apartments. Tomorrow night is the first Wednesday of the month, and we'll be talking about succession rights. It's usually a very popular topic, so for those of you who are in rent-regulated buildings or have colleagues who are friends or whatever, if you could let them know, this is an incredibly important topic. We will be holding another small business clinic on Wednesday, January 31st. It's going to be about small business financing for existing and new businesses, and we hope to collaborate with you guys. And also small business services will be helping us out. We don't have an exact location yet. I'm also, I think I mentioned to you, I did a relief mission in Puerto Rico. I remember talking to you about that. So we'll be reporting on that mission on January 11th at the JCC. We'll be showing some videos, and Melissa Mark Viverito, our former speaker, will have just come back from Puerto Rico. So she'll be giving an update with the most recent needs of the country, of the territory, and thinking about what we can do to help. So I'm gonna leave it there. Does anyone have any questions about what's going on with the city council? Yes, Jay?
What's the status of the prospects of the sidewalk bridge?
What's the prospect for the sidewalk bridge? Getting rid of the sidewalk bridges faster. Ben's legislation, you know, he's gonna have to reintroduce that legislation, and they are still negotiating behind the scenes. You know, it's very difficult to, I think look, I'm not negotiating the bill. I know what I would do and what I would ask for. So I hope it moves along. And actually, the person you should ask is Gabby from City Hall, and let her know that this is something that's very important to this community board. In fact, if you wanted to think about a resolution to let City Hall know how important this bill is to you, I wonder if that would be helpful.
Is that where the resistance is?
No, I am sure the resistance is the practicality of buildings that literally doesn't have the money to do the fix that needs to be done. DOB is not going to let the sidewalk shed come down because it's not safe. This was true for the Esplanade, where an inspector actually covered over the fact that the pointing work had not been done. Somebody ended up getting killed 3 years ago. And it's something that I agree the DOB should take very seriously. So, but I bet they're negotiating what the exceptions are and where they're setting up opportunities for waivers. Again, that would be what I do, but it's not my bill. I really would urge you to send something to City Hall. Yep.
Hi, so I'm just wondering about the new speaker. I think it's presumed right now that it'll be Corey Johnson, but has there been a vote yet?
The vote will be tomorrow at noon. The first meeting of the year is a term. It's called the charter meeting. It's not even the first stated, but we'll all come together to vote, and I'll be voting for Corey, and I assume my colleagues will be as well.
My question is similar, but there were many candidates. What will happen to committees? Because most of those candidates was on different committees. Do you have a line in who's gonna take the new committees?
No, not at all.
Because-
That will be the speaker's decision along with some other people who are in the room sort of thinking about the negotiations. And those decisions will not be announced tomorrow. They'll more likely than not be announced at the first stated meeting, which is probably in 2 weeks. The only committee chair that will be announced, and I think the members as well, will be the Rules Committee, because each of the committee heads and membership will go through rules before it goes to stated, and that will all have to happen before the next stated meeting.
First of all, two things. I read the New York Times article on the MTA costs of building subways, and I think a lot of that goes back to you asked the question in the beginning, so thank you. I recommend everybody read that article. It's really scary.
I mean, it's phenomenal. The guy who wrote the article, has everyone read this article about why it costs so much money per mile for the MTA to do new construction? It's, 4 or 5 or 10 times as much as any other big city in the world. And one of the things this guy unearthed was that the MTA had, for a particular contract, 200 employees that were completely unaccounted for. They just didn't even exist. And yet, the contractor was being paid for their work.
Some of them are making $411 an hour overtime. The other thing is that you know that Prospect Park is now completely car-free.
I do. And trust me, everyone I know at City Hall, including Gabby, knows that my top priority for in terms of, it's closing the Central Park Loop. If they can do it in Brooklyn, we can do it in Manhattan. And I've asked DOT to start collecting the statistics that were gathered from Prospect Park. They claim they've been doing studies. Let's see the result of those studies.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate you on raising that issue. That was the first time I ever heard of the difference in cost between building in New York versus elsewhere. But the question's been raised, but what's the answer?
Right.
They said New York's an old city, there are unions. Well, Paris, they cited Paris is older. Right. So what's the story?
I think the 200 ghost employees probably have something to do with it. Right. I think, we wrote a letter to Joe Loda asking a bunch of questions. He outlined his response, and the article you'll find follows the same sort of set of issues, and the author of that article has done extensive research. We're actually meeting with him and going through some of the things, and that will all come out in future articles. There's an interesting CUNY TV piece that I'm sure that you can go back and see. It's a discussion between Mike Jacobson, Mark Shaw, and Joe Loda. And it's Mike Jacobson's CUNY TV show. And I know Mike was trying to get Joe to say something that he shouldn't say and talking to Mark, but I don't think it worked. Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing we're doing is we're also using it as an opportunity to understand what they've done, and working with the Independent Budget Office now, we're making sure that the city is not making the same procurement mistakes. So we're having them look at, I forget, it might be DOT, but I think it's, it's DEP. And looking at comparative contracts for digging, for example, boring, and just seeing where's the city on all of this.
I have a quick
Yeah.
question. Depending on the level of the JCC, what type of New York?
Do you know what time we're doing the
We'll have the
JCC?
flyer, we'll have the flyer today, tomorrow, or the next day, we'll get it out.
I'm pretty sure it's like 7 or 7:30, but we'll post it on our website and get it out. All right, thank you guys so much. Keep doing.
All right, transportation, take it away.
Yeah. So apologies for the extra transportation, but a resolution passed unanimously, I believe, got left on the cutting room floor. A very pregnant woman came to our meeting and raised it.
This will be item number
13.
It'll be item number 13. Oh, that was item 14.
What was 13?
So, more absent. Andrew, leave absent.
Oh, okay.
I think if you could describe Riverside Drive stop sign.
Yeah.
Number 14 would be Riverside Drive stop sign.
So I'm going to take you on a 30-second tour, and then I'll read the resolution. But a very pregnant woman came to the meeting and raised what we see as an urgent safety concern. As cars are driving up the Riverside Service Road, coming from 97th Street, up, you can see on the left side here, there's a path into the park. And this is an old picture from Google Maps. DOT has since put in so as you're coming up, DOT put in this pedestrian crossing, and they put in this sign warning cars that there are pedestrians crossing. I came out, and these are pictures I took a few weeks ago after dusk. As you come out of the park, in this area, walking across the street, you see the pedestrian crossing, you see the backside of the sign, and unless you're thinking about shapes of signs, you would kind of assume that's a stop sign. So as you go to cross the street, the cars are coming up, and they don't have a stop sign. They have the right of way. And so there's this real conflict between people coming out of a blind pathway, walking into the street, and cars going 25, 30 miles per hour up the curb, not really seeing pedestrians on the path, and not having a stop sign. So we have a resolution, which I will read, which is Riverside Drive Service Road northbound at 99th Street. There currently is not a stop sign on the Riverside Drive Service Road at 99th Street, where there's a pedestrian path entering Riverside Park. Vehicles often travel on the road at 25 miles per hour or faster, putting pedestrians at great risk. CB7 sees this as an imminent danger to which we are putting DOT on notice, and we urge DOT to put a stop sign at this intersection at once without delay.
Rich, just make it entering and exiting Riverside Park, okay? Because you can go either way.
Okay. Yeah. It's a two-way pedestrian path.
Right.
She raised this as a safety concern.
But it's not limited to pregnant people, obviously.
I'm not pregnant, and I came out and I felt endangered.
The pregnant woman, I think, was just to make the story a little more interesting and to make sure you were all paying attention, because sometimes it gets a little boring here.
It was more than a little. It was for dramatic effect. Great dramatic effect.
She was very soon. She was definitely
Yes.
very soon.
I would just also note that if you're driving west and making a right, you have the same issue of not knowing what that sign is, thinking it's a stop sign. So I would also add something that says maybe two-way stop, just so you know that both cars have to stop, because it's a pedestrian and a driving issue.
Thank you.
All the question?
Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? So the above passes 36,000.
36,000.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, now we're going to preservation. So the first application will be Smoke. This, I can start to describe it already. It's a jazz club that's up at 104th Broadway, and it's a very small club. There are a couple of steps up. They need a handicap ramp, an ADA accessible ramp. It's the one before that.
This makes them legally
And so
responsible if something happens.
Drawing and plan for
Yeah.
what we'll see. It's a concrete curb. Here we go. So this is the existing conditions. It's on Broadway and between 104 and 5 and 6. And let's go to the next one, please. And that's just other existing conditions. And then we have the There we go. So this is the plan. It's a simple ramp, concrete, with metal railing for so that people don't fall off. With a metal curved base, and it's 44 inches wide. You get to the top because there isn't enough space for the proper kind of wheelchair manipulations to open the front door on its own. There's an automatic button that you push. And let's go to the next one. And this is the drawing. So here you can see the simple metal railing, flat metal. And our committee found it, reasonably appropriate with the agreement that certain elements of the design that had sharp edges, both the top of the curve and some of the very ends, that those be softened so that if somebody were to fall against something, it would get cut. And so the applicant agreed to that, and we approved it, found it reasonably appropriate. Any questions? Yes, Shelley?
Do you want to declare that the opposite side of the west lawn,
In the same thing as it goes all the way through the block.
Building, I think I can vote on this anyway, because it's a door which is not a part of our and it's handicap accessibility.
Right, that makes sense. So, I'd like to call the question.
Question, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
It's feedback from the microphone.
Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? So the vote passes 36-0-0-0.
Okay, the next application is the Schwab House, which is a building that sits an entire city block between 73rd and 74th Streets, West End to Riverside Drive. It was built right after right after the war, so very late 40s, I believe, and it took over from the Schwab Mansion that's at the center of the property in that beautiful landscape. That makes sense. So this is a building that was constructed in the late 40s or late 40s. And so what, 1950 was completed, okay. So we go to the next slide, this gives you context. So this is an application where the building has had window replacement over time. The original windows were all double hungs. And a number of years ago, there was a building-wide window replacement that those windows at this point are now on their last leg. So the building is looking to replace, other than the few that people have recently replaced, to do a building-wide window replacement. And they've agreed to turn it into a master plan that will also guide any windows in the future that were recently replaced. Most of it is being replaced in kind, meaning a double hung will be replaced with a double hung, very similar proportions. It'll be an aluminum clad, thermally insulated window. But there are a couple of special modifications to the original design that they are proposing and they need to come to us for. So the original design of, and then I'll look at the overall building, but the details of it are, the original design has 3 double hung windows, which, can we go to the next drawing for a minute, Jerry, please? Yeah, no, that, just the one before that. Go back, please. Yeah, there we go. So originally, there were 3 double hung windows. In right after the building was constructed and there were replacement windows, in these tripartite windows, the center window was replaced with a fixed window. And so that's pretty much the norm. It isn't every single condition, but most throughout the building, we now see in these 3 window wide openings, 2 double hung windows and a fixed window in the center. And the proposal is, now let's go back please, to that other one, is to standardize the look of that, which is not the original, but the look of having a fixed center pane of glass, but instead it will be a fixed casement. Visually, dimensionally, very, very similar. But it is a change from the original. Can we go to the very end, and then I'll come back to the other elevations. Okay, the other sort of unique proposal here is that they have many window air conditioning installations. This isn't a proposal, I believe there is a master plan for how to install full wall air conditioners for anybody who wants to do that, that's what they've told us. But this proposal also includes a modification to a typical double hung window to standardize how you put a window air conditioner into it. And so the proposal is that when you take out seasonally, when you want to put it in seasonally, instead of having a lower sash that you raise up and leaves you with an extra piece, that they will make a small sash of glass. This is the window at the top that's standard. Would be a regular glass window that's pushed up, and instead you have a replacement little piece of glass that I'm not sure if it's operable or not. And then a lower panel that's 15 inches tall by the width of the window, which I believe is typically, that is an insulated, made up of an insulated material that's similar in color to the bronze or dark brown frame, and would have the air conditioner inserted into that. The 15 inches, they describe it as being a standard, or sort of the upper end of standard. Some of the air conditioners might be a little bit shorter than that, but that line of 15 inches would always hold. And those two pieces could be taken out and put back in the season. So that's the other, and it also has some support brackets that make it sturdier than just kind of topping out your air conditioner. So that, now let's go back and look at the overall.
I think the woman mentioned that she's been talking to DOT for a long time.
And it's the yellow windows.
What's that? No, the woman who came, just the, yeah, I think so.
Window replacement plan. Most of it gets done pretty soon, and it will guide things in the future. There were certain drawings that weren't correct in the presentation. The preservationists who brought the updated set, which does show that the correct dimensions that we asked for, correcting certain aspects of the proposed elevation to include the windows that are currently don't conform to anything that was recently replaced. And we, with those requests, had approved the window, found it reasonably appropriate. Now, we do have one public speaker on this. David,
There were a couple of things that I'd like to correct. Number one.
Dave, go to the mic, please.
Number one, some things I'd like to correct. Number one, there are presently 2/3 of the building have window-mounted air conditioners. Only 1/3 of the building have through the wall air conditioners. The big problem, first of all, let me be perfectly clear in that we need these windows done. Okay, we want these windows done. The problem that we're having is that given what exists in reality may cause the Landmarks Commission to disapprove this. One major reason why they might disapprove it is because well, I'm going to be handing out these pictures. These are pictures, and I'm sure everyone knows, of window-mounted air conditioners. And the problem with this is that they're all different sizes. What these pictures show and what these pictures talk about are everything being the same. That means that if you have an air conditioner, and what they're talking about in terms of the same, we're also talking about a 12,000 BTU air conditioner. Well, 12,000 BTU air conditioner will be a lot of air conditioning in a one-bedroom apartment. So, in any event, let me just pass out some of these out. You can pass them out amongst yourselves. And these are pictures taken from the building itself. And again, pointing out that there are so many different. The other thing I'd like to point out is that in that panel that we're talking about, what she's talking about is the Alcoban. The Alcoban is a industrial piece that is comprised of a interior that is enclosed within two pieces of aluminum folded over. The problem is the architect and the building are unwilling to let us know, A, whether or not these are fire resistant, retardant or not, and we all know what happened in England. But again, I'm looking at the minutes of the meeting that were handed out, and one of the things that was said in the resolution was that correcting drawing 10 to specify the dimensions now reflected only as equal.
And I can assert that.
Again, I asked to see, Gary, I really want this project to go through. I don't want it to be stopped because the whole look that you're gonna have, given the fact that there are different sizes, to make everything not look uniform or conform, it would just be a cacophony of different sizes.
So do we have any other questions from these comments or from my presentation? The committee did vote to approve it. We found it reasonably appropriate. This is not uncommon to have replacement windows with a sash that might contain an air conditioning unit. We did not expect the sizes of the, up to that 15-inch dimension. It was just, that was the number they gave us, and therefore, and they said that they had done their research. We didn't hire the architect, so I think that kind of issue is really a discussion between the board and the architect, but the conceptual approach and the proposal seems more than reasonable.
When you look at the picture that was given, you see the air conditioners on sort of different windows. I don't like the idea of having the air conditioners stick out. I was sort of against that. But at a minimum, I think they should all line up and be one above the other, as opposed to back and forth. That's fairly easy to do.
Just in that regard, that came up in the discussion in committee. We all agreed that to the extent that, and they've converted this to a master plan, and as part of it, they agreed to incorporate the fact that when window air conditioners are installed in a given line of windows, that they'll all be installed. I think they did.
I think they're on the road to a good solution, but I personally am opposed to it because I think it's actually cost. Some of the reasons, and also because of one share, I thought it also shows all the openings, two great openings, whether or not that even
Okay, I would like to say that I do not believe the application was incomplete. I think this is very consistent with other master plans we've gotten. asked specifically about the air conditioning. They said there was a through-wall air conditioner. Sarah, can you talk for a moment about that? Because this wasn't about an air conditioning proposal for through-wall, but rather, given the fact that not everybody wanted to do that, they wanted to have an option for people that had window improvement.
Sarah Sher from Peter Space Park, Conservation Consulting on the project. There is an existing master plan for the building to install through-wall air conditioning. However, it's quite expensive for a shareholder to install through-wall air conditioning system. So this option is for shareholders who wish to keep or install an AC unit seasonally. And the Oriel sash or half sash is just an option to allow for more unified look across the building, but also energy efficiency. By installing the half sash, you don't get the leakage from having the sashes. Yeah. Well, this technically isn't an AC master plan, it is just a window master plan. Landmarks is not reviewing the installation of the AC, something is not attached to masonry. So what Landmarks is reviewing is the replacement of the windows. In this case, what's going for public hearing is the triple windows going from being replaced all as two double hungs with a casement, single light in the center, and they're replacing the seasonal installation of an Oriel sash when these units aren't installed if the shareholder chooses to have an AC unit. I understand. I think that a normal person in New York City can install an air conditioning unit without a permit. This is just a way to standardize the installation of AC units in this particular building, and we think it'll be an improvement.
Paige, we got it. Any other questions? Ken?
The one that said that side is accommodated for 12,000, but they said smaller units would basically have an extra little piece of flat material within that 15 inches. But there was a question asked about that.
It's so people can keep their AC units and just cut the alpha bond in a way that fits with the Oriel sash.
All the questions.
Great.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 28. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstaining. 1, 2, 3. So the vote passes 28-4-3-0.
The last application is, hopefully less than this is on Columbus Avenue, it's a storefront, 570.
Yeah, what happened to number 9?
Oh, 206 West 79th Street. They didn't come. So we disapproved, and it did come back. Yeah, sorry. So we disapproved it because otherwise. Well,
We have to vote to disapprove.
I didn't think you were actually gonna include it, but all right, let's.
Okay, so this is a vote for disapproval because this is no. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. Anybody against? Abstaining? So the vote passes 35-0-0-0.
Okay, the last application is for a storefront, that is at 88th Street and Columbus Avenue. This is the existing condition right now, which is a storefront that got closed in the 80s, or 90s, when the area was a tougher place. And so when the old storefront was ripped in and there were new windows put in, let's go to the next slide, please. And this is what's around the corner, which has a little bit more of, this is more of the original kind of things, but this side door, and it's blocked in a window. And all of this, we believe, they said it's this limestone there, probably this material was in limestone or was under it. Next, this is a historic photo of what the storefront used to look like. It had a center doorway, it had those transoms over plate glass windows. Next, please. And one of the reasons that I guess they decided to change and close things in this was next, the proposal has a change to where the entrance is. This is an after-school, a non-profit that runs after-school activities. And in order to make the space as easily accessible as possible, they wanted to put the entrance at the high point, which is at the north end. And so instead of being the typical center, the original center entrance, they moved the entrance to the north end, where the grade changes the least, and they can manage it without ramping it there. And then they created what essentially picks up on the transom line that's around the corner, but makes these sort of deep, sort of almost bays, a modern interpretation of that kind of a store, of the original storefront. It's not kind of replicating what was there. The next photo, please. Is there one more, Jerry? Is that, there we go. So this is what it would look like on Columbus, and then this window too would be restored, the transom line would be respected, and this would be turned into an extra doorway. And it's, you see dark bronze. The one thing that the committee asked, and they said they agreed to, is that this yellow paint that is there currently, they propose to repaint that color. We asked that they instead change it to see if they can restore the limestone underneath it, if not, that we painted the limestone color so that the banding that you see here would be a similar color there that would stand out. And so with that, we found that this line using the yeah, actually, they're already in there working, doing this program, but they want to make it a nice space.
What's the address?
Subject to reach out. Subject to reach out.
Budget retail.
So that's the act of this. Any questions? Any call questions? We voted to approve.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Anybody against? Abstaining. So the vote passes 36-0-0-0.
And now,
So number 11 will be for 2737 Broadway, for the Sidewalk Cafe, or enclosed Sidewalk Cafe. This is a restaurant that they have culinary restaurants all over the city right now. The committee, this past committee meeting, we were a little bit short of the attendance, so we only have a sense of the committee vote. There were no opposition to this particular Sidewalk Cafe, and on the anyone has any questions, no, only the frontage of Broadway. Yes. It may be slightly different, but if it complies with all our regulations right now. Any other questions? Okay, so for the question, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 33 against, abstaining, 1. So the vote passes 33-0-1-0. Okay. For number 12, it's split on A and B because this is for the street fair. This is the same street fair that we have been holding for the past few years. There were no opposition at the committee meeting to any of them. We had to, the reason why it's split up is because one of the applicants was not present at the meeting, and we had a few meetings today. The applicant came. There were no opposition to it, and we voted to approve. So I propose that we take just one vote for all of these street fairs, unless there is any opposition to it. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's we change to approve. Yes, correct. So, for the question, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 31, 32. Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? 1. So the vote passes 32-0-1, 32-0-2-0.
Ton of work that goes into the analysis of the street fairs. So I think the whole board, thanks to the city for
I want to thank everybody. I want to note it that we sat here with our scarves and jackets and that we've put up with the cold. I want to thank everybody again, wish you all a very warm and happy 2018. Remind that we're tweeting tomorrow night about street clutter. Hashtag street clutter. So between 5:30 and 6:30, I will now accept the motion to adjourn.